The air in the office was always the same, recycled, sterile, and silent except for the relentless tap-tap-tapping of keyboards. My world was a square of white walls and the cold blue glow of a computer screen, a quiet cage where I spent my days weaving invisible codes into websites. I was a ghost in that place, a silent observer. My heart, however, was a riot. It began its frantic, pleading rhythm the moment I stepped through the glass doors each morning, a desperate drumbeat for one reason only: Danny. He sat 2 desks away, a universe contained in that short distance. He was the living, breathing heart of the office, a man who carried sunlight in his smile and warmth in his laugh. When he spoke, the very air seemed to lean in to listen. I watched him from my shadowed corner, a silent film playing out day after day. I watched the other women orbit him, drawn to his light like moths, bringing him coffee, laughter, their easy confidence a language I could never speak. Next to their vibrant colors, I was a sketch in pencil, faint and easily erased. He looked through them, he looked past them, but his eyes, those kind, intelligent eyes, never found mine. I was convinced I was made of glass. Then, the world shifted. The boss, with a grave face, assembled us and unveiled a crisis, a monumental project, a client breathing down our necks, an impossible deadline. The air thickened with panic. And then he spoke the words that simultaneously thrilled and terrified me. "Danny and Carmel. You two will handle this." My breath hitched. A collaboration. A shared space. A sentence in the same story for the first time. The office emptied as the clock struck 5, the sounds of departure fading into a profound silence. We were alone. The vast, open space contracted until it contained only the 2 of us, illuminated by the lonely glow of our monitors. He stood, the quiet scrape of his chair against the floor deafening in the hush. He rolled it over, not to the opposite side of my desk, but right beside me. Our knees almost touched. The professional distance evaporated. Ready to start the biggest part of the work, Carmel. His voice was different, softer, lower, a sound meant only for the stillness. I could only nod, my voice lost somewhere in the frantic beating of my heart. We dove into the work, a symphony of clicking mice and murmured technical terms. For hours, we were a single unit, 2 minds focused on one impossible task. And then, as the deep night settled in, the work talk faded. Exhaustion made us honest. He spoke first, and his confession shattered my carefully constructed image of him. "Sometimes I feel incredibly lonely," he said, his gaze fixed not on the screen, but on the dark window. "All this, popularity, it's noise. No one ever asks how I really am." The vulnerability in his voice was a tangible thing, a crack in his perfect facade that called out to the cracks in my own soul. It gave me the courage to whisper my own secret dream into the space between us. My longing for the ocean, a vastness I had never seen, a metaphor for a freedom I never felt. He turned then, fully away from the computer, and looked at me. Not a glance, but a seeing. He looked into my eyes for a long, breathless moment, and the office, the project, the world outside, all of it melted away. In his gaze, I was not invisible. I was there. I was detailed, I was real. A current, electric and warm, arced through the space between us. And then, the sky broke. A furious storm descended, lashing the windows with rain, shaking the building with thunderous fury. A searing flash of lightning was followed by a deafening crack, and then, absolute darkness. The power died, swallowing us in a black so complete it felt solid. A small, terrified sound escaped my lips. "It's okay, Carmel." His voice was an anchor in the void. "I'm right here." And then, his hand found mine in the darkness. His touch was warm, sure, a lifeline. The fear of the dark receded, replaced by the shocking intimacy of his skin against mine. Using his phone's feeble light, we navigated the unfamiliar landscape of our dark office to the small break-room sofa. We sat, shoulders pressed together for warmth and comfort, sharing a single, scratchy emergency blanket found in a closet. The howling wind was our only soundtrack. The news on our phones was grim, roads washed out, trains halted. We were stranded. Together. The reality settled over us, intimate and profound. In that cocoon of shared warmth and darkness, the last pretenses fell away. He turned his head, the phone light casting soft, shifting shadows on his face. "Carmel," he whispered, my name a prayer on his lips. "You are truly beautiful." The words, so simple, so direct, unlocked something inside me that had been sealed for a lifetime. He lifted his hand, his touch achingly gentle as he cradled my cheek. I leaned into it, my eyes closing, memorizing the feel of his thumb against my skin. The scent of his cologne, the sound of his breathing, the warmth of him, it was all I knew. The world had narrowed to this point of contact. He leaned in, and the space between us vanished. The kiss was not a question, but an answer. It was slow, deep, and trembling with years of silent longing finally set free. It tasted of honesty and storm air and the sweet relief of being known. When we finally parted, we simply rested our foreheads together, breathing each other in, two secrets meeting in the dark. The rest of the night was a soft blur of whispered stories and clasped hands, until sleep gently took us, tangled together on that small sofa, his arms a fortress around me. Dawn was a brutal editor. The sun returned, the power hummed back to life, and with it, the real world crashed in. We woke in a pool of golden light, still entwined, smiles on our lips. But we were not fast enough. An early arriving coworker froze in the doorway, her eyes wide with scandalized understanding. The whisper network ignited instantly. By the time we stood, the office was alive with sidelong glances and hushed, excited voices. Our beautiful, secret night was now public property, a source of gossip and judgment. The warmth of his embrace was replaced by a cold dread in my stomach. I saw the other women's icy stares, heard the fragments of speculation. I feared he would retreat, that the pressure would make him deny our truth to preserve his easy place in this world. For days, I shrunk under the weight of the stares, the invisible girl once again, now painted in the garish colors of scandal. I waited for him to pull away, to offer a polite, distant smile. But as I sat at my desk, drowning in fear, I replayed the night, his confession of loneliness, the look in his eyes, the feeling of his heartbeat against mine. That was real. I was real. A fierce, new courage, born in that darkness, began to burn away the fear. I would not hide anymore. I stood up. The office hushed. Every eye followed my slow, deliberate walk across the floor to his desk. He looked up, and I saw not fear, but a flicker of the same anticipation I felt. I held his gaze, my voice clear and steady, ringing out in the silent room. "Danny," I said, "I'm not sorry about that night. Not for a single second." He was on his feet in an instant, his famous smile breaking across his face like the sun after a long storm. "I'm not sorry either, Carmel," he declared, his voice strong enough for everyone to hear. He strode to me, and in front of God and everyone, he took my hand, lacing his fingers tightly with mine. It was a claim, a statement, a boundary drawn in the sand. Together, we faced our boss, bracing for professional fallout. We told our story, the storm, the collaboration, the genuine connection that blossomed in the dark. He listened, steepled his fingers, and finally nodded. "Our work," he said, "was exceptional. We could stay." The relief was a tidal wave, leaving behind a pristine shore where we could finally begin. Now, our story is ours to write in the light. The whispers have faded, replaced by a quiet acceptance. He still makes the room brighter when he enters, but now his brightest smile is reserved for me. He calls me his caramel, a private joke that holds the memory of our first honest conversation. We work side by side, partners in every sense, and the late nights we share now are filled with plans, not secrets. We are saving for the ocean, for that vast blue freedom I once only dreamed of. I will feel the sand and hear the waves with his hand in mine. I spent so long as a silhouette, waiting to be seen. Love didn't find me by chance. It found me the moment I finally chose to step out of the shadows and into my own light. The quiet girl is gone. In her place is a woman, seen, chosen, and fiercely, deeply loved. This isn't an ending. It is the most beautiful beginning.